You've seen them, the person who walks into a room and something shifts. Heads turn, conversations pause, people lean in, almost without realizing it. There's no announcement, no performance. Just a quiet, gravitational pull that seems to follow them everywhere they go. You've wondered about it, maybe even studied it, tried to put your finger on exactly what they're doing differently. Is it confidence, charisma, some genetic gift handed out at birth to a lucky few? Here's the truth most people never hear. It's none of those things. Magnetism isn't a personality type. It's not something you either have or you don't. It's a collection of small, almost invisible behaviors, habits so subtle they fly under the radar, yet so powerful they completely reshape how people experience you. The science backs this up. Psychologists, neuroscientists, and social researchers have spent decades studying what makes certain people unforgettable, and what they found wasn't what most people expected. It wasn't loudness, it wasn't dominance, it wasn't even raw confidence. It was something quieter, deeper, more intentional. In this video, you're going to learn 17 of those habits, tiny shifts, every single one of them, but the kind that compound, the kind that change how you walk into a room, how you hold a conversation, and ultimately, how people remember you when you're gone. Quick question before we start. Do you consider yourself a naturally magnetic person? Drop yes or still working on it in the comments. There's no wrong answer, but I have a feeling most of you are about to change yours by the end of this video. Let's get into it. Before you say a single word, your body has already started the conversation. Research suggests that a significant portion of how people perceive you in those first few moments has nothing to do with what you say. It's all nonverbal. The way you carry yourself, where your eyes go, how much space you take up, how still you are. So we're starting here, with the foundational physical habits that lay the groundwork for everything else. Habit 1. The slow blink. This one is so small it's almost laughable until you feel its effect on the receiving end. Most people, when they're nervous or eager to connect, blink quickly and dart their eyes around. It reads as anxious, unsure, even untrustworthy on a subconscious level. Magnetic people blink slowly and deliberately. It's a signal, quiet but powerful, that says, I'm calm, I'm present, I'm not threatened. You've probably noticed this quality in people who just seem deeply at ease in social situations. Part of what you're reading is their blink rate. Start paying attention to it, and then start slowing yours down, especially in high-stakes conversations. It sounds trivial. It isn't. Habit 2. The triangle technique. Eye contact is one of the most studied aspects of human connection, and one of the most misunderstood. Most advice lands somewhere between hold strong eye contact and don't stare like a predator, which is helpful to exactly no one. Here's a more useful framework. When you're in conversation, let your gaze move slowly and naturally between the person's left eye, right eye, and mouth, forming a soft triangle. This isn't robotic or mechanical when done right. It mimics the natural gaze pattern of someone who is genuinely engaged and interested. It feels warm, not intense, trustworthy, not aggressive. Practice it and you'll notice people start to lean into conversations with you in a way they didn't before. Habit 3. The 1-second posture reset. Before you walk into any room, a meeting, a party, a coffee catch-up, pause for just 1 second. Roll your shoulders back. Lift your chin slightly. Plant your feet. Take 1 breath. That's it. 1 second. But what it does to your perceived presence is disproportionate to the effort. Open posture signals status and confidence to the people around you. Yes. But here's the part most people miss. It also signals it to you. Research from social psychologist Amy Cuddy and her colleagues suggests that adopting expansive postures can influence how you feel internally, not just how you appear externally. 1 second of intentional posture can shift your entire internal state before a conversation even begins. Habit 4. The intentional pause. Magnetic people don't rush to fill silence. They're comfortable sitting in it for a beat, and that comfort is contagious. When someone asks you a question, resist the urge to answer immediately. Pause for 1 to 2 seconds before you respond. What happens in that pause is remarkable. You appear more considered, more confident, more measured. You signal that your words are worth waiting for. And paradoxically, the slower you speak and the more comfortable you are with brief silence, the more authority and warmth people assign to what you say. Most people are so terrified of a pause that they rush and stumble. You don't have to be one of them. Habit 5. The lean. Physical proximity and orientation matter enormously in social dynamics, and the lean is one of the most underrated tools in any magnetic person's repertoire. When someone is speaking, really speaking, sharing something meaningful, lean in. Not aggressively, not obviously, just fractionally. A slight forward shift of your upper body. What this communicates wordlessly is, what you're saying matters to me. It's the physical embodiment of genuine interest. People feel it immediately, even if they can't name it. And the feeling it creates, that someone is actually physically moving toward you because your words are drawing them in, is one of the most connective sensations a human being can experience in conversation. Habit 6. Mirroring. This one is backed by decades of research in social psychology and neuroscience, and it works almost disturbingly well. Mirroring is the subtle, subconscious tendency humans have to reflect each other's body language, vocal tone, and pace during positive social interactions. You've done it without realizing it, matched someone's energy, adopted their posture, slowed your speech to match theirs. Magnetic people do this intentionally, but subtly. When someone leans back, you ease back slightly. When they slow down, you slow down. When they drop their voice, you soften yours. The key word is subtly. This isn't mimicry, it's attunement. Done well, the other person never consciously notices it. What they notice instead is an inexplicable sense that you just get them, that being around you feels easy, comfortable, natural. That is the signature feeling of magnetism, and mirroring is one of the most reliable ways to create it. These 6 habits are your physical foundation. They're not about performing confidence. They're about embodying presence. And presence, more than any other quality, is what makes a room feel different the moment you walk into it. But the body can only carry you so far. What happens when you open your mouth matters just as much, maybe more, because the real magic of magnetism lives in conversation. And that's exactly where we're going next. There's a reason certain conversations leave you feeling energized and others leave you feeling vaguely hollow. It's not always about the topic. It's about whether you felt truly seen during them, whether the person you were talking to was actually with you or simply waiting for their next turn to speak. Magnetic people are masters of making others feel seen. It's not a trick. It's not manipulation. It's a set of conversational and psychological habits that, practiced consistently, create an experience most people rarely get to have. The feeling that someone is genuinely, completely, presently interested in them. Here's how they do it. Habit 7. Use their name, but sparingly. Dale Carnegie said it nearly a century ago, and neuroscience has since confirmed it. Hearing your own name activates regions of the brain associated with reward and self-relevance. It's one of the most personal sounds in any language. Magnetic people use names, but they do it sparingly and naturally, not robotically. Dropping someone's name once early in a conversation and once near a meaningful moment creates warmth without feeling calculated. That's a really interesting take, Marcus. Lands completely differently than, "Hey, so how's it going?" One feels like a transaction, the other feels like a relationship. Habit 8. The echo technique. This is one of the simplest and most powerful conversational tools in existence, and almost nobody uses it intentionally. When someone says something interesting or important, repeat the last 2 or 3 words they said, as a question with genuine curiosity. That's it. Someone says, "I've been feeling really stuck lately." You say, "Really stuck?" And then you wait. What happens next is remarkable. People expand. They go deeper. They say the thing they were actually trying to say but hadn't quite gotten to yet. The echo technique signals that you heard them, not just the surface, but the weight of what they were carrying, and it invites them to keep going without pressure. It's a tiny habit with a massive emotional return. Habit 9. Ask the second question. Most people ask one question and then pivot to their own story. It's not malicious, it's just how most conversations are wired. Someone mentions they went to Japan. You ask, "Oh, how was it?" They say, "Amazing." And then you launch into your own travel story. Magnetic people ask the second question. What was the most unexpected thing about it? Or was there a moment that stood out above everything else? The second question is where connection actually lives. It says, "I'm not just checking a conversational box here. I genuinely want to know more about your experience." People feel that distinction acutely, even if they can't articulate it, and they remember you for it. Habit 10. Validate before you respond. Here's a habit that almost instantly changes the texture of any conversation. Before you respond to what someone has said, especially something emotional or personal, validate it first. Not with empty phrases like "totally" or "for sure," but with something real. That sounds genuinely hard. I can see why that would frustrate you. That makes complete sense given everything you've been dealing with. Even one sentence of real acknowledgement before your response creates psychological safety. It tells the person, "Before I say what I think, I want you to know that I actually heard what you said." That small moment of being witnessed is something most people are starving for, and the person who gives it to them becomes magnetic, almost by default. Habit 11. Share a vulnerability selectively. This one might surprise you because most advice about magnetism focuses on projecting strength. But there's a well-documented psychological phenomenon called the pratfall effect, first identified by social psychologist Elliot Aronson, which shows that perceived competence actually increases when someone reveals a small flaw or moment of vulnerability. Magnetic people aren't afraid to say, "I honestly don't know the answer to that," or "I struggled with that for a long time," or "that was one of the more embarrassing moments of my life looking back." These admissions don't diminish them, they humanize them. And humans are fundamentally drawn to other humans, not to performances of perfection. A well-placed, genuine vulnerability in a conversation is like opening a window in a sealed room. Suddenly, there's air, and people breathe easier around you because of it. Habit 12. Match energy, then gently lead. Have you ever been in a conversation where the other person's energy was so dramatically different from yours that it felt jarring? Too loud when you were calm, too serious when you were playful. It creates friction, a subtle dissonance that makes connection harder. Magnetic people are skilled emotional calibrators. When they enter a conversation, they read the other person's energy and meet them there first. If someone is subdued, they soften. If someone is animated, they rise to meet it. This initial matching builds rapid rapport. It's the conversational equivalent of mirroring. But then, and this is the key, they gently lead. They slowly bring the energy to where it needs to go. Toward warmth, toward openness, toward depth. And because you've built trust by meeting them first, people follow. Not because you're controlling the conversation, but because they feel safe enough to let you guide it. These 6 habits are the conversational engine of magnetism. They shift you from someone who talks at people to someone who talks with them. Someone who creates an experience of being genuinely known. And when people feel known by you, they don't just like you. They seek you out. They tell others about you. They remember you long after the conversation ends. But there's one more layer to this, and it's the deepest one. Because while habits of body and conversation create magnetic moments, there's a third category of habits that creates a magnetic identity, and that's where we're going now. Everything you've learned so far, the physical habits, the conversational techniques, they work. They create immediate, tangible shifts in how people perceive you and how they feel in your presence. But the people who are the most enduringly magnetic, they've gone one level deeper. They've built habits that aren't just things they do, they've become things they are. This is the identity layer, and it's where the real transformation lives. Habit 13. Develop a point of view. Magnetic people have opinions, not aggressive ones, not the kind that bulldoze conversations, but clear, considered, lived-in perspectives that make conversations more interesting the moment they enter them. There's something deeply compelling about someone who, when asked what they think, actually tells you, who says, "I've been thinking a lot about this, and honestly, I've come to believe that," and then means it. This isn't about being controversial. It's about being present, about showing up with your actual self, rather than a carefully curated, controversy-free version of it. Opinion creates texture. Texture creates engagement, and engagement is the heartbeat of magnetism. Start by noticing where you water down your real thoughts in conversation, where you hedge, qualify, and shrink what you actually believe into something safer. Then practice saying the fuller version. It's uncomfortable at first, and then it becomes you. Habit 14. Remember the details. This habit requires almost no effort to develop, and almost everyone underestimates its impact. When someone tells you something, that they're nervous about a job interview, that their dog just had surgery, that they've been training for a half marathon, remember it. And then the next time you see them, ask about it. How did the interview go? Is your dog doing better? How's the training coming along? What this does is almost impossible to overstate. In a world where most people are barely listening to begin with, the person who actually remembered something you said last Tuesday becomes extraordinary. It signals, "You matter to me enough that I held on to something you told me." That signal is one of the most powerful forms of human affirmation in existence, and it costs you nothing but a few seconds of genuine attention. Habit 15. Be genuinely enthusiastic about other people's wins. Here's a habit that separates the truly magnetic from the merely charming. They celebrate other people, wholeheartedly, without asterisks. When someone shares good news, a promotion, an engagement, a personal breakthrough, magnetic people respond with full, unfiltered enthusiasm, not a polite, "Oh, congratulations," before pivoting back to themselves. An actual, present, "That is incredible. Tell me everything about it." This sounds simple, but in practice it's surprisingly rare. Genuine enthusiasm for someone else's success requires a level of emotional security, a freedom from comparison and competition, that most people haven't fully developed. When you find it in someone, it feels remarkable, because it is. It tells the person in front of you, I'm not threatened by your success. I'm genuinely happy for you, and there are very few feelings more bonding than that. Habit 16. The Ben Franklin effect. Ask for a small favor. This one is counterintuitive enough that it deserves special attention. Most people assume that doing favors for others makes those people like you more, and there's truth in that. But social psychology has documented something equally powerful that works in the opposite direction. Asking someone for a small favor makes them like you more. This is called the Ben Franklin effect, named for Franklin's own observations about human nature. The psychology behind it is elegant. When someone does something for you, their brain unconsciously justifies that behavior by concluding they must like you, because why else would they have helped? The act of helping creates the feeling of connection, not the other way around. So ask someone to recommend a book. Ask for their perspective on something you're working through. Ask for a small piece of advice in their area of expertise. Done sincerely, not manipulatively, it creates a thread between you. A small, warm connection that often grows into something much larger over time. Habit 17. Become someone who notices. This is the final habit, and in many ways, it's the one that holds all the others together. Magnetic people notice things. They notice when someone's quieter than usual. They notice when someone changed their hair or got a new bag, or seems lighter today than they did last week. They notice the painting on the wall at the coffee shop that nobody else has looked at. They notice the nervous energy of the new person in the room who hasn't quite found their footing yet. And then they say something, not to perform observational skill, but because they genuinely noticed. Because they're actually looking. Because their attention is outward rather than turned relentlessly inward. In a world of distraction, where most people are half present at best, scrolling through mental to-do lists while nominally in conversation, the person who is actually fully looking at the world around them becomes magnetic, almost by accident, because attention is one of the rarest gifts you can give another human being, and when you give it fully, without agenda, people feel it in a way that's almost physical. These 5 identity-level habits aren't quick fixes. They take practice. They require a willingness to shift not just what you do, but who you're choosing to become. But here's the thing about that kind of shift. It compounds. Every time you practice one of these habits, it becomes more natural, more automatic, more you. And then one day you walk into a room and you don't have to think about any of it. You've just become someone who makes people feel seen, heard, and valued. And that is the deepest, most durable form of magnetism there is. Here's what I want you to take away from everything you just heard. Magnetism was never about being the loudest person in the room. It was never about having the best stories, the sharpest wit, or the most impressive resume. It was always about how you make people feel, seen, heard, valued, like their presence actually matters to someone. The 17 habits you just learned are the mechanics of that feeling, the slow blink, the second question, the remembered detail, the genuine celebration of someone else's win. None of these are grand gestures. None of them require you to be someone you're not. They just require you to be a little more intentional, a little more present than most people think to be. And here's the beautiful thing about starting small. You don't have to overhaul your entire personality to begin. Pick one habit from today, just one, and practice it this week. In your next conversation, at your next meeting, the next time you run into a neighbor, see what happens. Notice how people respond differently. Notice how you feel differently. Because this isn't just about becoming more magnetic to others, it's about becoming more connected to the people around you and to the version of yourself who shows up with intention, presence, and genuine care. That version of you already exists. These habits just give them room to come forward. If this video gave you something useful, share it with someone who you think could use it. And if you want to go deeper on any of these habits, the neuroscience, the practice, the real-world application, let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. See you in the next one. If you're ready to stop blending into the background and start becoming someone people genuinely remember, leave a comment below. I am magnetic. Say it like you mean it, because after today, you have every reason to. And if this channel feels like home, subscribe and turn on notifications. There's so much more where this came from. Thank you for showing up. Now go make someone feel seen.